rumblings out of Pittsburgh that they're looking for a trade, notably with the Boston Red Sox. Pittsburgh needs a little power. They feel if they get one hitter, they can contend.
2 balls, 1 strike to count. Well, the Pirates now 4 games back. Montreal losing despite a couple of home runs by Andres Galarraga. Big chop for Dunston. 2 Grace, 2 gone. So the Expos remain 7.5 back. They lost to the Padres, and the Dodgers have beaten the Phillies. So the Dodgers at the moment hold a 4-game lead in the West over Houston, 5.5 in front of San Francisco, and right now 8 in front of the Cincinnati Reds.
Did you see those numbers on the Dodgers with Pedro Guerrero and without him? They were something like 14 over 500 without Guerrero and a 500 club with him, and I think that had a lot to do with the fact that they felt he was expendable.
The pitch is too low to Dave Concepcion. Ball 1. Concepcion, the one Red player who has remained here through all the glory years. Now 40 years old. This one is 1-1. He said he'd like to play again next year. It would be his 20th. He will always have a special place in his heart for Sparky Anderson, who gave him such encouragement. Dave, when he first came up, weighed about 150 pounds. 1 ball, 2 strikes. He said Anderson and Ted Kluszewski had a lot of confidence in him, and it paid off.
He should have a special place in his heart for Pete Rose, because it looked like Davey was on his way out. When Pete Rose took over, Tom Foley had actually won the shortstop job here in Cincinnati. Rose turned that around. He put Concepcion at shortstop, and meanwhile he's still on the club. That was 1984.
And a drive into right field. Dawson is there to make the catch, and that retires the side. 3 up, 3 down. We're at the end of 4 with the score 3-0 Cincinnati. We're at Riverfront Stadium. Cubs and the Reds finishing this 3-game series, and for the Cubs, the final game on a short 3-game road trip. Here's Vance Law. Law, Palmeiro, and Davis in the 5th against Danny Jackson. Jackson has allowed only 1 base runner, the 1-out double in the 1st to Mitch Webster. All ground balls with the exception of a line drive to second and a strikeout since then. And it's high. Ball 1. Law started the day 10th in the league in hitting. There's a fly ball back into left, not overly deep. Daniels coming in, and he's got it. Well, the Cubs are making progress of one sort. At least there's a fly ball.
It was the end of an era in Cincinnati this trip. The elevator operator Dave, who's been here for 8 years.
Yeah, Dave Snyder.
He turned over the reins, but before he left, he told his relief man that he was going to teach him a few things. He taught him the split finger grip, where you could push 2 buttons with 1 swipe.
The pitch to Rafael Palmeiro is too low. Ball 1.
He told him to be ready, because sometimes they charge the elevator operator if you catch him in the door a little too quickly. And he taught him the scuff button. So now he's got all the moves you need to run the elevator.
This one inside. You know, in our last trip, we featured his juggling ability, and I think he went back to school to get an advanced degree in juggling. If he's an accountant, that might come in handy sometime. Foul ball out of play. It's 2-1.
Well, he was a nice young man, and I'm sure that everything will work out for him. After 8 years in an elevator, things start looking good when you're in the outside world. You'll probably get a job as a telephone booth repairman now.
This one high. 3-1. I never ask him, but I know Amos Otis had to be his favorite player.
No doubt
spending so much time in the elevator. And a shot into right center field for Rafael Palmeiro, all the way to the wall. And Palmeiro's on his way to second. He will turn second and hold there with a double. Rafael Palmeiro ripping his 29th double of the year. The second Cub hit. Both have been doubles.
Raphael hit this ball hard. This was a slider on the outside part of the plate, and he drove it into the gap in right center field. O'Neill, realizing he can't get to it, chases it all the way to the wall. Palmeiro had designs on third, but he realized 3 runs down. This is not the time to gamble.
Danny Jackson had retired 12 straight between the double by Webster and the 2-base hit by Palmeiro. Here's Jody Davis. Jody grounded to short his first time.
Frank DiPino up and throwing in the bullpen.
Jody, the number 7 hitter. Jackson misses with a fastball high. Ball 1. So far tonight, there's DiPino in the Cub bullpen. This outing for Jackson in stark contrast to his other start against the Cubs, when the Cubs beat him 11-6 here at Riverfront on May the 21st. 1 ball, 1 strike. He lasted 4 innings, gave up 7 runs and 13 hits in that one.
Don Zimmer resting Damon Berryhill tonight. He said it's been very hot. He wanted to give Jody Davis a chance to face a left-hander, and he couldn't have faced a tougher left-hander in the National League than Danny Jackson.
1-1 the count. There's a foul ball out of play. A ball and 2 strikes. We want to send along special birthday wishes. We got a note from Marilyn Quinlan to Sue Holden, the aunt of the late great Jack Quinlan. Sue Holden, 80 years young today. Great Cub fan, rooting for the Cubs in Milwaukee. A ball, 2 strikes the count. And Jody is out on strikes. The second strikeout for Danny Jackson, and out number 2 in the Cub fifth.
And now Jamie Moyer's fate is squarely in the hands of Manny Trio. Against a tough pitcher, if you get a shot at him and you're 3 runs down, you've got to go to the bench. I'm sure that's what Don Zimmer has in mind. So if Trio can keep it alive, there's a good chance that Jamie Moyer will be through for tonight's action.
Manny Trio in there tonight in the place of Ryan Sandberg, who has some swelling and stiffness in that forearm after being hit on the pickoff attempt throw last night. Manny, nothing out of 1 tonight. Strike 1 on the foul ball. Cubs 6-2 in the season series against Cincinnati. They've won 3 and lost 2 here at Riverfront Stadium. A strike the count. One ball, 1 strike.
Paul O'Neill's got a very good arm in right field, as does Eric Davis in center field. So Barry Larkin is jogging in behind Palmeiro. He wants him to take a step back to the bag. If he loses a step on a base hit, that might mean the difference between a run and an out.
Too high. 2-1. Danny Jackson has really anchored this starting rotation. Last year, the Reds had a great bullpen. This year, it's been even better. But the starting pitching left something to be desired a year ago, when Pete Rose set a record for making pitching changes. This one now high, 3 balls and a strike. But this year, with Danny Jackson in the middle of that rotation, Jackson leads the league in complete games with 10, making his 26th start. Rose last year made 392 pitching changes, an all-time major league high.
You know, the Reds traded Dennis Rasmussen to San Diego. All he's done is go 10-1 for the Padres. They could have used him down the stretch.
And there is ball 4. So Trio draws the walk. The first given up by Danny Jackson. And now Moyer will be recalled, and Don Zimmer will go to the bench and call upon Darren Jackson to pinch hit against Danny Jackson.
Thad Bosley hit 3 home runs consecutively as a pinch hitter in 1985. And Darren Jackson is trying to do the same thing here tonight. Last 2 times up, he's hit the ball out of the ballpark. So Darren Jackson comes into this one 243, 4 for 18 with 2 home runs and 5 RBIs as a pinch hitter.
So there's the story on Darren. He's hitting for Moyer. Darren has hit 2 home runs against the Reds. The one against Browning the other night, and the other one came off Danny Jackson. And here he is facing Jackson in a pinch hit role tonight. The first pitch too close. Ball 1. 4 innings for Jamie Moyer. He gives up 5 hits in that time. 3 runs, a home run. Struck out 1 and walked a pair. Big cut by Darren. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Leaving no doubts as to what's on his mind. He took a healthy cut, tried to rip that one out of the park.
All of Darren's home runs have been against left-handers this year. Ground ball up the middle. That's going to slip through into center field. A base hit. Palmeiro will score, and the Cubs are on the board. It's a 3-1 contest. So Darren Jackson comes off the bench and delivers a pinch hit single up the middle. So Darren Jackson comes up with another pinch hit. Boy, he has been the pinch hitter deluxe here. He has a home run off Ken Daly, a home run off Tom Browning, and now a base hit off Danny Jackson in his last 3 pinch hit appearances.
That's going to chase a run home, and that's going to send Bo Diaz to the mound to talk with Danny Jackson. And Darren Jackson, who won the Battle of the Jacksons, now has hit 3 straight times successfully, 14 RBIs this year.
And here is Sean Dunston. Sean, nothing out of 2 with a couple ground balls to third. So the Cubs are on the board. They have a run on a couple hits and a walk in the inning. Two men on with 2 men out. And Dunston pops it foul. Asaski will chase it but not have a play.
I'd like to see Sean look inside one time, because more times than not, when they go to get Dunston, they throw the ball inside to him. There's a lot of clubs that have been staying away from Sean. Apparently the Reds advanced scout has said he's starting to lean out over the plate, bust him in. If Sean just doesn't try to attack the ball, if he opens up a little more quickly, he might be able to get the head of the bat on one and drive it into left center field.
Trio getting a pretty good sized lead away from second, and the pitch misses. So it's now a 1 ball 1 strike count. There's Jackson at first. Darren owns the run batted in. Dunston with a looper back at first. Tough play for Asaski, but he gets back there and makes the catch to retire the side. 1 run for the Cubs, 2 hits. They leave 2. And as we move into the bottom half of inning 5, it's 3-1 Cincinnati. It's hot and humid here in Cincinnati at Riverfront Stadium. 3-1, the Reds lead the Cubs.
They're dancing in the aisles here, and the Reds on top.
And Frank DePino is the new Cubs pitcher following Jamie Moyer.
DePino at 2-3, 4.12 ERA on for the 49th time. That leads the staff. 5 saves, 67 2/3 innings, given up 5 home runs, walked only 21, while Fanning 51. He's got to hold the Reds right here.
And here is Danny Jackson. Jackson doubled and scored his first time up. DePino misses on the first pitch for a ball.
You don't figure to get too many more shots at Danny Jackson. So if they get a couple more runs, it's going to be very difficult to get him tonight.
Big cut by Jackson. 1 ball, 1 strike. Dodgers beat the Phillies 2-1. Padres over the Expos 5-4. The Giants beat the Mets in San Francisco 4-1. Jackson started to go. That's a strike, and the count is 1-2. Houston batting in the top of the first. That game just underway in St. Louis. Mike Scott against Bob Forsch. Now to play, right back over the screen.
You know, I talked to Don Zimmer before the game about the 4-man pitching rotation. The Reds are using it, and Don Zimmer said he favors the 4-man rotation. Don't be surprised if next year, at least at the beginning, he goes to that. He figures you get more starts, you get your ace to the mound a little more quickly. Things work out if your pitchers can hold up.
Upstairs, 2-2. Well, the Reds have certainly had some very good things happen out of that 4-man rotation.
Well, they're 26-16 with a 4-man starting rotation. Don Zimmer says, look, I go with 5. My pitchers still get hurt. They can't get hurt anymore going with 4.
Jackson fouls this one into the screen. Over in the American League, bottom of the 4th inning in New York, the Angels lead the Yankees 2-0. Baltimore out in front of Oakland 5-0 in the bottom of the 3rd at Baltimore.
Observant ball players. He's checking out the defense, see if the outfielder's in the right place for the Cubs.
Gotcha. The pitch, swing and a miss. So DePino strikes out Danny Jackson. Seattle leading Boston 1-0. Bottom of the 4th inning at Fenway. Mark Langston against Mike Boddicker, the pitching matchup in that game. Top of the 5th at Cleveland. The Brewers and the Indians are scoreless. White Sox and the Tigers. Top of the 3rd at Detroit, no score. Melito Perez against Jeff Robinson. And Texas has a 2-0 lead at Minnesota in the top of the 3rd. Cal Daniels up there. Daniels takes it too low for a ball. He is the league leader in on-base percentage and has been on twice tonight with a single and a walk.
One of the reasons is why he's 3rd in the league in base on balls.
This one pop foul. Going to be out of play. And the count now 1 ball, 1 strike.
He talked about mechanics that sent his batting average plummeting early in the year. Here's a man who hit .334 last year. That really doesn't tell the tale because he is facing left-handers for the first time. So naturally the batting average would be down some, but he's not very happy even though his average is a .286. A lot of guys in this league would be overjoyed at those kind of numbers.
1 ball, 2 strikes. We're in the bottom of the 5th. The Reds scored 3 times in the 3rd. The Cubs picked up a run in the 5th inning. DePino in relief of Jamie Moyer. Jamie worked the front 4. Two balls, 2 strikes. One hopper out to second. Trio has it. Back to Grace, and Cal Daniels is retired for the first time tonight. 2 up, 2 down in the 5th inning. And it brings on Chris Sabo. Sabo has grounded into 2 double plays tonight. 0 for 2. And is now 0 for 9 in the series.
But more than that, he hasn't had the ball out of the infield in the series. That's what worries you about this at bat. He's a pretty good hitter who's really struggled against the Cubs this trip in.
Ball 1. Reds 2 games over 500. They won the first game of this series to go 3 over, and that's the high water mark for this Cincinnati club this year. Two and 0 the count. The Reds have now hit 100 home runs. That home run by Eric Davis in the 3rd. There's a line drive into right, falling in there in front of Andre Dawson. A 2-out single. Sabo goes the other way and picks up his first hit of the series.
I would think they'd turn Sabo loose here. He hasn't been on base. He's stolen 34 bases this year, been caught stealing 11 times. I'm sure that he'll want to look at least one move from Frank DePino. So base runners will get what they call a one-way lead. They'll take a little bigger lead than normal, leaning back toward first to entice the pitcher to go over there. They know they're going back to the bag, but they want to see the pitchers move.
He's going on the first pitch. It's high, and the throw, one hops in. He's in there safely with a steal. That's his 35th stolen base. Sabo 5th in the league in steals. The Reds have now stolen 160 bases.
I thought Frank could have picked him off had he gone to first base, because Sabo had stolen base in his mind. Frank elected not to go there, and Sabo got a tremendous jump. Jody not making a good throw to second, and Sabo's in.
So a steal for Sabo. The Reds have been successful 80% of the time this year. And they're now 6 out of 7 running against the Cubs on the year. So a man at second for Barry Larkin. And he takes the pitch upstairs. 2-0 the count. Larkin doubled home a run in the 3rd inning after Sabo had grounded into a double play. There's Damon Berryhill getting the night off alongside Larry Cox. Oh, a long drive, but well fouled. And the count is 2 balls and a strike.
Larkin has straightened up his batting stance this year. He was in a severe crouch last year. He thinks he gets more power standing straight up. He showed it to you, that last foul ball.
Well, from the Reds' perspective, he did a great job of picking up Sabo after Sabo grounded into the 3rd inning double play. Moyer left the pitch up out over the plate, and Larkin ripped it for an RBI double. Now the count is 3-1. And then to go one step further on the next pitch, the first one to Eric Davis. Davis hit the 2-run home run to right field. 3-1 the score, Cincinnati. 3-1 the count on Larkin. And DePino loses him. So a single by Sabo, a steal, and now a walk to Larkin. And with 2 outs, Eric Davis will bat with 2 men on. Don Zimmer can't like what he's seeing right here.
He's very frustrated with his bullpen, and there's nothing Don can do. He's got to make the moves that he thinks he has to make, and that's pinch hitting for Moyer when he has an opportunity to get a run. He got the run. Now he watches his reliever come in and walk Larkin ahead of Davis. Never a real good idea.
Davis takes one too close.
Eric is trying to take everything inside and look for the ball out over the plate. He said, even if I hit the ball on the inside corner, I'm going to pull it foul. Might as well concede it to the pitcher. If he misses in there, then he's got to go back out over the plate, and that's where I take over.
He lines this one down the left field side, back into the corner. Extra bases. Sabo scores. They're waving Larkin around. He's going to score. It's a double for Eric Davis. That gives him 4 runs batted in tonight. 67 on the year. And the Reds now lead 5-1. So DePino getting into trouble with 2 outs here in the 5th.
Frank throws a high fastball out over the plate, and Eric Davis just rips it into the corner. Barry Larkin with great speed scores easily all the way from first. And Frank DePino is having some problems.
And now Nick Osaski will be given the intentional walk with Paul O'Neill, a left-handed hitter, due next. Osaski has walked intentionally. Well, DePino got Jackson and Daniels easily enough. But Sabo singled into right field. Stole second. Larkin walked. And Eric Davis comes through, driving home 2 more runs. There's ball 4. Well, here's Paul O'Neill with men at first and second. O'Neill 0 for 2. And like Sabo before him in this inning, has gone hitless in this series. Matter of fact, O'Neill is now nothing out of his last 18. One ball, no strikes. Two and oh.
Manny Trio now coming in to have a word with DePino. You know, Dwayne, the bullpen situation has been one of frustration for Don Zimmer all year long, and you wonder what's going to happen in September as far as calling up some guys. As far as the roster expansion is concerned, there's a few guys who are not on the major league roster who Don Zimmer said probably won't come up here because you'd have to drop somebody from the roster.
Now Jeff Pico trots down to the bullpen. And the pitch is low, 3-0. Well, that's one of the things that was discussed when Jim Fry went to Winston-Salem, when he got together with all the traveling instructors in the system, reviewed a number of phases of the operation. They turn him loose, 3-0, and O'Neill bounces it foul into the dugout, so it's 3-1. So they have some names in mind. They haven't made any decision yet as to which way they're going to go and who the September recalls might be, but it's something that's being addressed right now. There's a strike to run the count all the way to 3-2. So with 2 outs, Saski and Davis will be breaking with the pitch. Saski at first, Davis at second. They go the 3-2 foul down the right side. So we'll do that again. Reds with 3 in the 3rd and now 2 in the 5th inning. The 2 runs answering the 1 the Cubs picked up in the top half of the frame as the Cubs try to get back in this game against the tough left-hander Danny Jackson. But the Reds have added to their margin. O'Neill pops this one foul, headed for the stands, and DePino will have to make his 3rd 3-2 pitch.
If he does walk him, that might be it for Frank DePino. Jeff Pico's just about loose.
And the right-handed hitting catcher Bo Diaz follows O'Neill. He got him. He struck him out to retire the side. The Reds, however, pick up 2 more runs. They pick up 2 hits and leave 2. 2-5, 5-1 Cincinnati. With Steve Stone and Artie Harris, this is Dwayne Stats from Riverfront Stadium. On to the 6th inning with the Cubs trailing the Reds and Danny Jackson now 5-1. Mitch Webster is going to lead it off. Webster, Grace, and Dawson against Danny Jackson.
What amazes you continually about this game is when you put a man on the mound who's having a good night, your ball club looks like it's on top of his game. The hitters are confident that the pitcher is going to hold them right there, so they're swinging free and easy, score some runs. When your starting pitcher has some problems, it's a whole different story.
Webster 1 out of 2, and there's a shot, fair ball up the left field line. Webster's on his way to second for a double as Daniels makes the pickup. Second double of the night and the 10th of the year for Mitch Webster. So Webster jumps on the first pitch and doubles.
Mitch Webster swinging aggressively, drives this ball on the inner half of the plate. Fair by about 3 feet. And he's hit the ball very well tonight. One of the few Cubs who have hit the ball well off Danny Jackson.
It brings up Mark Grace. Grace nothing out of 2. He drives one back into center field. Eric Davis with a lot of room makes the catch. The tag by Webster. He's on his way to 3rd and will make it. The throw offline and into foul territory. So Webster winds up at 3rd on the fly ball into center by Mark Grace.
Strong throw by Eric Davis, but it's not on target. Webster makes it easily.
1 on, 1 out. Here's Andre Dawson. Andre's grounded to second base and has lined to second. hitting .310 for the year.
Unlike most pitchers around the league, Danny Jackson has elected to stay inside Andre Dawson instead of away, and he's tied him up twice.
Foul ball up the right side, strike one. Well, Jackson gets a lot of drive off the mound, doesn't he?
Well, he's got to, because he doesn't have overpowering size. He's only 6 feet tall, which is not tall for a Reds pitcher. He is 190 pounds, so he's a strong young man. But he does drive off that back leg, and that's the secret to good mechanics on the mound.
A popper on the right side. Saski into foul territory. 2 gone.
You know,
Webster still at third.
When you look at all those great pitchers that the Mets had, and the 3 that lasted the longest were Jerry Koosman, Nolan Ryan, and Tom Seaver. And all of them, even though Koosman was a left-hander, did the same thing. They all really drove off the mound. They had great mechanics, very smooth, fluid motions, but they used the lower part of their body to best advantage. Look at the weight difference between your legs and your arm. You have a much heavier lower body, and if you use your legs to drive off the mound, you're going to stay around a while because you take the pressure off the arm.
Here's Vance Law. Shot to first, 1 hop, knocked down by Saski. Jackson covers, and that retires the side. No runs, 1 hit with a man left. We go into the bottom of the 6th inning. 5-1 Cincinnati. Pete Rose has seen some things he likes tonight with the Reds out in front 5-1. They send Bo Diaz to the plate to open the bottom of the 6th inning. Frank DiPino on the mound for the Cubs to open his 2nd inning of work, and Diaz clubs one deep to center field, out of the reach of Webster and off the wall. Diaz on his way to second with a double. A leadoff double on the first pitch, the 8th double of the year picked up by Diaz, and the 3rd hit surrendered by DiPino.
If you get the ball up to Bo Diaz, you can pretty much count on this. Look at the location of this pitch. Diaz loves the ball up in his eyes. He drives it over the head of Mitch Webster. The ball stays in the park, but Diaz can't take advantage of it with his speed. Still winds up at second. You know, Pete Rose took a lot of heat earlier in the year. His ball club was struggling. There were some articles written about the replacement of Rose as the manager, and I think Marge Schott set up a trial balloon saying that she would replace him if it came to that, but it would be a tough decision to make in Cincinnati, where Pete is certainly loved.
Here's Dave Concepcion. Runner at second, nobody out. Concepcion fouls this one. Well, Concepcion mentioned that today when he was talking about the fact he'd love to come back and play another year, become a 20-year man having played for the Reds, but he says nothing is for sure here. He says if Pete Rose didn't spend his entire career here and has a chance of being fired, he says anybody. That could happen to anyone. Foul ball. 2 strikes the count.
I think that one got Davey Concepcion in the face.
Says he wants to manage in Venezuela when he's finished playing. He's in the cattle business down there.
I think there's a few clubs that might like to have him as either a manager or certainly a coach that's close to the manager. He might wind up in the front office somewhere. He certainly knows how to play the game.
And he knows that it's a combination of opportunity and hard work along with ability that makes it happen. 2 strikes. Up and away. He said those first few years when he weighed about 155 pounds, it wasn't much fun trying to hit against the Bob Gibsons and the Don Drysdales. Ground ball, second base. Trio has it over to first, and Diaz moves to third, so Concepcion advances the runner.
And every swing he took that time, he tried to hit the ball to the right side. His teammates giving him a big hand because they know that he did the job that he had to do. You know, Pete will go over there because that's the way Pete Rose played ball.
So a man at third with 1 out, and Danny Jackson becomes the hitter. Jackson already has a double tonight and a run scored. Strike one. Jackson choking up on the bat a little bit.
Trying to make some contact and looking down at third base where Bruce Kim is flashing the signs. You don't normally expect a bunt. 5-1 up. So Jackson took a good healthy cut.
Two strikes.
You know, a little controversy here with Leon Durham, who missed a flight and then informed the team that he was going into a rehabilitation clinic. The team didn't know anything about his progress, and Leon came up and he said that he was 10 days away from coming back. Only Murray Cook didn't know anything about it. I think it's going to be a few more days than 10 for Leon.
And there's strike three to Jackson. Well, unfortunately, the timing is not all that good, because even if you projected it 10 days, 2 weeks, the minor league seasons would be winding down. There's no place to send him for him to get himself back into shape to play.
And I think that's that, along with the fact that he really didn't inform the club of anything that was going on, and I think that's what aggravated Murray. So it's been a very tough go in Cincinnati for Leon Durham. A lot of pressure coming home, playing in front of a lot of his friends. Hopefully all will work out well for him, but it'll probably be next year before he gets back in action.
Cal Daniels takes the pitch in for a strike. Daniels has single, walked, and grounded out to second. DePino trying to pitch around the leadoff double by Diaz, who's now at third. There's a strike. 0-2 the count on the Cincinnati left fielder. Two strikes the count. There's Diaz, the runner at third.
He was born looking for the high fastball.
Daniels breaks his bat as he loops it foul back into the stands. So the count holding right there at 2 strikes, and Daniels is on his way back after a new bat.
I asked Murray Cook if it was more difficult this time of year to make a deal, and he said no more than usual, except you have to really assess exactly what you want and what you're willing to pay before you go into a situation where you're talking with a general manager. He said more times than not they're going to hold you up if you're in the pennant race and they're not. And if you think you have a legitimate shot at it, then you can go out and maybe give 120% for 100% back. He said if you don't think you have a legitimate shot at it, you cannot mortgage your future in 1988 and perhaps cripple your ball club in 89 and 90 just to try to make a run at it this year. And he really thinks the Dodgers will be tough with John Tudor.
A liner up the middle, base hit on an 0-2 pitch. Scoring the run, Diaz crosses the plate. 3 runs off DePino, and it's now 6-1 Cincinnati. So Cal Daniels drives in the run with a single, his 48th RBI.
Not a real good 0-2 pitch. It's out over the plate, and it's up, and Frank's getting everything up. The hitters tell you what kind of stuff you have on any given night. And Cincinnati's telling Frank that he better get the ball down.
Here's Chris Sabo. Sabo 1 for 3. This one way up. 1 ball, no strikes. Sabo's average 275. Comes home tomorrow afternoon at 3:05 with Greg Maddux opposing Rick Mailer in the Atlanta Braves. Sabo drives this one into left. That's going to be in there. 1 hop. Daniels with a big turn and decides to hold at second base. Now throw back across to first. Safe there. Sabo had taken a big turn, anticipating the possibility that Daniels would go to third, but he gets back in.
Another high pitch and another base hit. The Cubs almost cut down Sabo. Daniels straying, and watch Law comes up firing to first base, but Sabo in with the slide.
Runners at first and second, and here's Barry Larkin. Larkin has grounded out to third, doubled home a run, walked and scored, hitting .284. And the pitch is a strike at the knees. Three runs off Moyer, and three now off DePino. A strike over the outside edge, 0-2. Reds with 3 in the third, 2 in the fifth, another one in the sixth inning. And that's too close. A ball and 2 strikes. And that's the big beach ball. That one came flying down out of the upper deck. That one especially made for Andre the Giant. 1 ball, 2 strikes the count on Barry Larkin. And he rams this one foul. Eric Davis is on deck. This one has pretty much been all Cincinnati tonight. And you can see it in the expression of Don Zimmer. The 1-2. Down and in. That ball almost hit Larkin. 2-2.
There are very few jobs where your talents lie squarely in the hands of somebody else, and that's exactly what a major league manager is. A man who can make whatever moves that he'll have to make, think about the lineup, do what he has to do, and yet he's dependent on 24 guys to make him look good or bad. And tonight, Zim is not a happy man.
A shot fair up the right side. Daniels will score. Sabo hitting third. Kim waving him home. Here's the throw, not in time. It's a double for Larkin. Larkin doubles home 2 more runs. That gives him 46 runs batted in for the year. Another 3-run inning for the Reds, and now it's 8-1 Cincinnati.
Another high fastball and another line drive. Safe to say that Frank does not have it tonight. And here comes a couple of more Reds to score. Nobody up in the bullpen, so it's up to Frank to get out of this one.
Larkin at second with his 22nd double, and now Eric Davis is the hitter. Davis has homered and doubled 2 of 3. Ground ball, that's going to go through into left for a base hit, and it gets by Palmeiro. Larkin scores, and Davis will go to second. That's a single and a run batted in for Davis, his 5th of the night. An error charge allowing Eric Davis to move into second. The 3rd error of the year charged to Palmeiro.
What time is that flight? Goes as an error on Raphael. Cincinnati pulling away. And Jody Davis out to talk with Frank DePino, and I can't imagine what he'd be telling him right now.
5 runs batted in by Eric Davis. 3 runs batted in by Barry Larkin. Cal Daniels has the other one. That's 6 runs and 7 hits off DePino. And here's Nick Osaski. Osaski 0 for 1 with a couple of walks, 1 an intentional pass. Strike one. Saski a little over anxious trying to get into the hit parade. One strike to count. One ball, one strike. The pitch. Foul, out of play. One ball, two strikes. .305 tomorrow. That's Herman Winningham. Loosening down the right side. Matter of fact, a .305 game again on Saturday against the Atlanta Braves, and then a .120 game Sunday. All three here on WGN. Saski strikes out to retire the side, but the Reds have a 4-run inning, and at the end of 6, it's now 9-1 Cincinnati.
With Steve Stone, Harry Caray back at Riverfront Stadium, Herman Winningham replaces Eric Davis in center field for the Reds. And Lloyd McClendon out of Gary, Indiana, replaces Cal Daniel. McClendon in left. I guess the Reds, with Dan Jackson pitching, figure they can rest their two-star outfielder. Palmeiro, 1 out of 2, scored a run, led off the 5th with his 29th double. There's a drive, foul. Goose Gossage limbering up in the bullpen. 9-1 the Reds lead. There's a ground ball. Concepcion, 1 man out. There's Jody Davis.
Jackson works quickly and he works effectively. Only 4 hits given up, 3 of them doubles. But the Cubs looking up at an 8-run deficit.
It's one of the worst defeats we've taken, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of offense tonight on the part of the Reds.
It just makes you appreciate the pitching job of Rick Sutcliffe last night. When you see these guys pounding the ball to all corners of the field tonight. Because this is a good, tough lineup to stop. A lot of good hitters. And Sutcliffe stopped them cold as he shut them out. Well, we need about 6 more Sutcliffes on our pitching staff.
That would be nice.
1 out, nobody on. The pitch is outside. 2 balls and a strike.
Jackson, Maddox, Hershiser, Russell, all with 16 wins. Jackson bidding to be the first National League pitcher to win 17.
Pitch is low. I think the odds are pretty good that he will be it tonight.
He's got a leg up on it, certainly.
Yeah, Viola has 19. He's the winningest pitcher in the major league. There's a ground ball. Sabo has it. Over to first for the out. Jody's had a lot of injuries off and on all year, but he doesn't seem to swing the bat like he used to. I don't know. He's a young man. I guess he's been in and out of the lineup so much it's hard really to find yourself.
Well, there's no timing, Harry. That time the fastball in on his hands, he couldn't get the head out of the bat quickly enough. And you don't get the head of the bat out, you wind up with a broken bat.
Manny Trio, the batter, 2 out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 ground balls have been hit that have been handled against Danny Jackson. 13 outs out of 20. He also struck out 2 men, covered first on another play himself. Swung and he missed. So this has been almost as much of a Danny Jackson show tonight as it was a Rick Sutcliffe show last night for the Cubs. Two and two out. There's a line drive, base hit. Winningham fumbles it, and he threw those going to hold it first. Angel Salazar is going to be the pinch hitter. Salazar.
Hitting .278 this year, 0 for 1 as a pinch hitter.
Darren Jackson, pinch hit tonight. Drove in the only run that the Cubs have with a single to center. There's a bouncing ball foul. DePino, during his 2 innings, allowed 7 hits, 6 runs. There's a looping liner, a 1-hop to Concepcion over to first to retire the side. No runs, 1 hit. And we go to the bottom of the 7th. It's 9-1 Cincinnati. We go to the bottom of the 7th, and Goose Gossage will be the 3rd Cub pitcher.
Goose at 1-1, 3.82 ERA on for the 32nd time. He's got 12 saves, 30 2/3 innings work this year. He's given up a couple of homers, walked 9, struck out 22. There's an Ernie Harris hat shot. Good hat for you, Harry. You look good in that tonight.
I've never worn a hat in my life. There's O'Neill. The first pitch is in there, a strike call. Paul O'Neill. Gary Varsho is playing right field. There's a high pop foul out of play. Varsho is in right, replacing Andre Dawson. That's the only change. They will probably change the batting order around with Varsho hitting 9th. 0-2 on O'Neill. Fastball a little bit low. What my good friend Emmett O'Neill is doing. There's a drive. Nice play by Grace. And he is out. The play going from Grace to Gossage. Boy, a heck of a play.
Fine play by Mark Grace. The Goose got over there just in time. O'Neill hustling down the line. Grace comes up with a diving stop. A very close play at first.
Beat him by a half a step.
Jeff Reed comes on to hit for Bo Diaz. We saw Reed yesterday. He didn't do much against Rick Sutcliffe.
Joliet boy. Born and raised in Joliet. 1 ball, no strikes. Eric Davis has 5 RBIs tonight. We're a team high for the Reds this season. The Adam Miller family from Buffalo Grove on hand for the ball game. Woody Ernie is here from Jasper, Indiana. 3 balls and the strike on Reed. Go in to catch next inning. Strike 2 called, 3-2. Damon Berryhill ready to go if called upon. He struck him out. Reed goes down swinging. 2 men out. Get well wishes for Joyce Weaver, a great Cub fan. There's a ground ball. Nice stop by Dunston to throw. Got him. Nice play. He bounced it off that turf, which a lot of infielders try to do. And at the end of 7, it's still 9-1 Cincinnati. Concepcion is now playing third base.
Ron Oster has gone in to play shortstop.
Playing short. And Jeff Treadway at second base. Reed is catching. Leanna Rowe here tonight. Wishing her grandmother, Zip Kelly, quick recovery. Matthew Hahn is here from Mishawaka, Indiana. And they're here from Whitewater, Wisconsin. Chuck Morphew and family. Dunston a ground ball on the first pitch. 1 man out. Jackson will be the first pitcher in the National League to win his 17th game. Greg Maddux will try for his 17th tomorrow at Wrigley Field when the Cubs face the Braves. Oster threw out Dunston. Here's Mitch Webster, 2 doubles to his credit, 2 out of 3. There's a high fly ball. Winningham is there under the ball, and he makes it back. Hey, that glove he's got looks like the Cub blue. Watch it.
It's probably Montreal blue. That's where he came from.
They don't have blue in Montreal, do they? Blue laws. There's a ground ball. That, hey! He's out! Danny Jackson made the catch, turned a somersault, and still held on to the ball to retire Mark Gray. 3-1. 1-2-3. We go on the bottom of the 8th. Still 9-1 Red. Carey back in the ballpark. Danny Jackson getting a big hand from the crowd.
Pat Perry
pitching.
4-4, 4.29 ERA, on for the 45th time.
Gossage. Jackson goes down swinging.
When you're a good athlete, you can do things like this. A high throw. He actually tags the base with his back foot before he goes tumbling. Randy Marsh avoids him, sees that he held onto the ball. That's it.
Birthday greetings to 16-year-old Jamin David Hurst from Jeffersonville, Indiana. One man out.
Herman Winningham on for the first time tonight, hitting an even .250. No home runs, 12 RBIs.
Ground ball. That ought to be easy. And it is. Winningham bounces to Law. 2 gone. Here's Chris Sabo. 2 out of.
Treadway taking his place.
Treadway took his place, right. Treadway batting where Sabo had 2 out of 4. Getting the 2 double plays his first 2 times to make it 0 for 9 for the series. Then he singled and scored each of the next 2 times. There's a smash right at Mark Grace, and it's all over in the 8th. At the end of 8, Cincinnati 9, Cubs 1. Harry Carey back in Cincinnati. We go into the top of the 9th. Gary Varsho will lead it off. He replaced Andre Dawson last inning, and he'll bat here in the 9th.
Hitting an even .270. No home runs, 3 RBIs.
Policeman James Rapp from Waukesha, Wisconsin, unhappy about the score. There's a drive in the center field, and it's caught by Winningham. That ball was hit hard by Varsho. 1 gone. Here's Vance Law. Nothing out of 3.
This will be the 3rd complete game in a row for Danny Jackson, his 11th of the year. That leads the National League.
Not only that, it'll be the 10th victory in the last 11 decisions he's had, 10 out of 11. And the 1 game he lost was 1-0 in 10 innings at Montreal. Boy, he is a hot pitcher. 0-1 the count on Law. There's a note from a kid. Scribbles out the note. I'm Aaron Osborne from North Aurora, Illinois. Rooting for the Cubs. R-O-U-T-I-N-G. 2 balls and a strike. 1 out. Well, the Cubs are going to have to do it at home. Get over the 500 mark. Not much managing today, Zim. It was a no-brainer. Nothing you could do about it. One out, nobody on. There's a high fly ball, easy out. O'Neill's there. But for a pinch single by Darren Jackson in the 5th, Danny Jackson would have another shutout to his credit. Jackson leads the Red staff with 4 shutouts. 0-1. Palmeiro 1 out of 3. There's a hit. Single to center. Palmeiro 2 out of 4. Dawson was nothing out of 3. Mark Grace, who has just moved in among the leading hitters, was nothing out of 4. Palmeiro, who's 8th in hitting going into the game, the only one to pick up points. He's 2 out of 4. Law, who's 10th in the league, was 0 for 4. Here's Jody Davis. Fouled it back out of play. 2-1 Cincinnati. Sutcliffe pitched his 9th complete game last night. Jackson will pitch his 11th today. They're 1-2. There's a line drive. Fair ball in the right field corner. There's Palmero holding up at third. And Jody Davis has a single just inside the right field line. There's Manny Trio coming out.
Jody now 1 for 4, drops this ball just fair, and he gets a base hit.
The Pirates idle today, gained a half game on the Mets, who were beaten by San Francisco. So the Pirates are now only 4 games out. Manny Trio with 1 out of 2.
Damon Berryhill in the on-deck circle if Manny can keep it alive.
Boy, he's really drenched with perspiration, isn't he? Strike 2. 1-2 the count. Danny Jackson trying to take over the league lead in victory. Everybody's on their feet. That evens the count, 2-2. Bouncing ball. This is it. And